And welcome to another episode of Another Look. This is our news and review podcast where we take a look at news from around the Shenandoah Valley that's been happening over the course of the last week. It's Friday, August 10th, 2018. It's about 1:30 in the afternoon here.
We're getting earlier and earlier.
Earlier and earlier. We're doing these things faster and faster. My name's Dylan Nicholls. I'm the news director here at the River 95.3. I'm sitting across from Janet Michael from the Valley Today. And here we are for another episode of Another Look. How you doing?
It seems weird because didn't we just do one? I mean, literally less than a half an hour ago.
So what we did, in case you missed it, is we basically just used an episode of the Valley Today live on air as an episode of Another Look. We did a truncated Another Look live for people so they could get a sample of it and maybe check out the podcast. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was fun. That's what I would say.
And the coolest thing about it was, I think, my dumb news story. I would have to say that was the coolest thing about the whole podcast because it was really good. Do you remember that?
It should have been.
No, do you remember that? It was a long time ago.
It was like
do you remember?
45 minutes ago. Are you kidding me? No, it's gone.
The Chinese president looks like Winnie the Pooh, and they've banned all images of Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, no, it's still not as funny as, 15 pounds of ham crashing through your roof at 4 o'clock in the morning.
I don't know, man. I mean, that's interesting. It's a mystery. It's a classic whodunit.
I know.
But Xi Jinping, I mean, that's pretty.
It was.
If you look at did you post a picture with the Valley Today?
I haven't gotten that far yet. You
Okay.
interrupted me, so Valley Today isn't even up yet.
Oh, okay.
But
well,
we'll
it's
put a
going to be
link
up.
to it in this podcast.
So please check that out. And honestly, it was really fun. It was a lot of fun,
Yeah.
and it was a cool segment, and it's basically what we do here, but it was abbreviated a little bit.
Filtered.
It filtered. Well, we're about to take the filter off. Apparently, Janet wants to rant about.
I don't have that many. I don't have that much in my stack.
Well, you have that one, the street safety.
That's the big one. But can we just talk for a minute about this 82-year-old man attacking an officer? What?
Well,
what?
let's do that after the break. All
right.
Let's take a quick break. Let's tease them with that. Yes, an 82-year-old, it seems racist and sexist old man attacked an officer. We'll talk about that. I want to talk about this possible opioid crisis lawsuit that now it seems like the whole state of Virginia's in. And I also want to talk about the Shentel Tower that might be coming to Jim Barnett Park that caused a guy to resign. So we'll see if we can shed some light on those topics when we come back with some more Another Look.
It's an award-winning lunch hour every day at noon with the News at Noon and Valley Today. Listen live on air, online, or on demand at theriver953.com. That's theriver953.com.
And we're back with some more Another Look. We're going to dive right into the news. I think Janet should go first, and I want to hear your argument against these. I never even heard this word. I thought of them as just, portable barriers that they set up in city streets to keep cars from going in certain areas, but they're called bollanders?
They're called stupid sticks.
Okay. So what is your objection?
And I just coined that term. So if anybody's going to use it, I own the copyright.
Stupid yellow sticks. That save lives, though, Janet. I mean, how could you? All right, so first of all, let's give them the
you
the
give them
story
the
in
background.
Summary. Okay. So basically, what happened after the Charlottesville incident in last August, where a woman was killed when one of the white supremacists that was in the rally ran her down with his car
on a public street.
What ended up happening is somebody in the Winchester City Council, I want to say, spoke up. You have the report in front of you there, so I forget who spoke up exactly.
Suggested by Winchester Public Services Director Perry Eisenach and
the
Winchester
Police Chief John
Piper.
Yeah, and so those guys came together and said we should have some barriers, some of these movable bollanders is what they're called, the yellow vertical poles that you can they basically allow people through easily, but a car can't get through because they're not wide enough. And they block off like huge public squares so that a situation where there's a driver, be it a terrorist or be it drunk or some angry person, just cannot get through. And then that kind of got put on the freezer, and then Toronto happened more recently, and so it's now being pushed through. And Janet's got some objections.
I have multiple objections.
Okay, so let's hear them.
I mean, first of all, $250,000. Let's start with that. That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
And when there are multiple other things that could be, and it's a lot of money that they don't even have. Because if I'm reading your story correctly, City Manager Eden Freeman told the City Council that she would find the $250,000 necessary in the fiscal 2019 budget to pay for the bollards at the north and south ends of the mall.
So I think they're
So where is she stealing that $250,000 from?
Probably from orphans.
Exactly.
No, Janet. Janet, that's not how city government works. She's maneuvering the budget around. She's trying to make sure that this thing can get through. I mean, here's the thing, is that it rests on everyone's shoulders. If an incident does happen, would be blocking off the Loudoun Mall.
Yes, only at two entrance points. It's only going to, from what I understand, they're only going to put them at the entrance from Cork Street and from the entrance at Piccadilly Street.
It would be the north and south side.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There is a midway entrance to the mall that traffic already drives through.
Yeah, right.
All you got to do is turn right and hit the gas. So let's start with that.
Okay, and that's true too, except they're basically this is what their budget allows for now, so it's a start kind of a thing. But it is one of those things where what's the price for safety? I mean, what's the price for? It's tough. It's a really tough issue, I think, because if anything like that were to ever happen, everyone involved on the city council who said that's a massive waste of money and we can't afford it and it looks bad and it's not functional and blah, 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 is going to feel absolutely terrible because there was something they could have done.
I agree. I don't think they need to be done right now. I don't think it needs to be something that you're pulling $250,000 away from something you have already accounted for in the budget. Well, I don't see why this can't wait till the 2020 or 2021 fiscal year when you can say, okay, this is where this money needs to go, and now let's figure it out, because my understanding now is that budget is somewhat set. So now they're going to start plucking money from other things that might be a little more important or a little more needy on the chance that something like this may happen. And it's a horrible thing. I mean, downtown Winchester is a massive tourist attraction. It's just going to look horrible. It's going to detract from people wanting to come downtown on the mall.
Would it really look that bad?
It's going to look like what's going on? Do we have it?
I've seen those things before, and they don't really faze me. I just walk through, and it's it's nothing because it's just kind of like on the off chance kind of thing. And well, just to be clear too, like we don't know where this is coming from. The budget, I don't think that they are taking like a little bit off the top here, a little bit off the top there. It's not fair for us to say that because the phrasing she used in the article is very vague.
Yeah.
So we don't know where the money's coming from. But I understand your concerns from a tourism standpoint. That does make sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, downtown Winchester as a walking mall already brings with it a massive set of issues that they have to overcome to get people to come down there. And to me, it just seems like putting these things up that are literally barriers, even though they're barriers for cars, they have the appearance of barriers for anyone and everyone. And it's going to make it that much more complicated for all those businesses down there to be able to say, hey, come downtown. We enjoy having you down here. We welcome everyone.
I will say, though, I mean, one hazard you mentioned was drunk drivers. So, I mean, you get something like the Apple Blossom Festival going.
Right.
I mean,
so
they
why
were
can't
blocking
you do
off
temporary ones during those larger festivals? Apple Blossom is pretty much the only one. Apple Blossom, Hot Blossom,
temporary barrier.
Christmas. But you could put up those things that are, and that's the other thing.
That's
so
a good
these are
point,
supposed to slide down. So what happens when they don't? What happens if they're on a timer and the UPS truck, because they're going to leave them down during certain times in the morning when all the deliveries happen up and down the mall?
I think the specific design that they were looking for is like a horizontal sliding design.
Yeah.
But it's kind of you make a good point about the portable barriers for large crowded events, and I guess a good question to ask is this necessary for day-to-day?
Right.
Or is it feasible to, for less money, put up barriers only when necessary for large huge events that are going on where it would be a terrible risk.
And that's just it. So over the course of it, and that's the thing where if they were going to try and sell this to the general public, then maybe it would have been great to be able to say, instead of citing Charlottesville and Canada, how about you say, over the course of the last 10 years, we've had this many instances where people have accidentally or on purpose or because they were under the influence tried to drive down the mall. give me some numbers to at least back up why you're doing this instead of just throwing it out there. And then who's going to maintain them? What's going to happen when one of these UPS trucks gets stuck on the mall? How are they going to get back on? Who's going to pay for whoever in parking authority or whatnot to come down, rejigger them so that they actually go down or come back up? It just seems like it's going to be a whole lot of work for something that could have been thought out in a better way with less money.
Well, that would be interesting too, to take a study of recent incidents. How does this apply to the Shenandoah Valley? Because if Winchester were ever a target, or if Winchester were ever an unintentional target, it's it's not a major city like we've seen. It's not a Charlottesville.
No. And that again, is a public street.
Yeah,
that was a separate. I mean, I understand the thought behind it and the logic behind it, but Charlottesville was a public street.
Right. It wasn't something that would have been blocked off anyways, you're saying?
No.
Yeah. And so it's an interesting issue. But did you have any more? I'm sorry, you've got like a stack of 4 and we're like running out of time.
Well,
for
and
your
then
seg.
of course, I joked during one of our breaks on the Valley Today, if they, want to start putting up barriers, how about IQ tests? Because, that could be, that could stop a whole lot of nonsense from happening before it even gets started. You have to answer some simple questions before you're allowed to go anywhere.
I'm just imagining like little trolls set up under bridges all across downtown.
So awesome.
Yeah.
I would so put my tax money towards that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
I would
you're
even help
all
interview
about
the
the
trolls
whys.
to figure out, what questions should asked and whether or not they were appropriate troll, like in their asking of them.
And of course, the trolls would get $15 minimum wage.
Well,
It's
yeah,
just,
duh, you have to have a living wage.
Yeah,
And health care.
and healthcare, of course. A lot of toe fungus with the trolls, a lot of medical issues.
So tell me about this crazy 82-year-old man that thought it was okay to shout racist slurs at a Winchester City Sheriff's deputy and then continue to argue with other police officers as they got there.
You got it. That's the story.
That's it. So that was it.
He was really angry. I don't think they charged him with a DWI, though. I don't think he was under the influence. I think a woman officer pulled him over. She pulled him over. He got out of his car. He immediately asked, can I please talk to a male officer? So she calls for backup. But when backup comes, he starts using racial slurs against her. I think he had some sort of beef with her. The reason he was pulled over in the first place was because he was following her way too closely. She normally, as a Winchester City officer,
They let a lot of that stuff slide.
They let a lot of that stuff slide, but beyond that, they're not usually doing traffic stuff at all. That's not them. But he was following her specifically too closely, so she pulled him over, and then he was probably mad about that because the last thing he expected was for that to happen, being behind the police car or the sheriff's car.
Well, he then kicked and punched.
Yeah, then he attacks the responding officers who were back up.
Who were probably
Poor Alexis.
Winchester City police officers. And I don't know that you know this only because you're not from Winchester, Frederick County, so to speak.
Right.
But the way that all of that works, you have Winchester City Police Department, which is the police department. You have the Frederick County Sheriff's Office, which is the sheriff's
Then you have
office
the
for Frederick
Winchester
County.
City Sheriff's
The
Office.
Winchester City Sheriff, most of what they do is court related.
Right.
They're the bailiffs, they're transport to and from, they're that sort of thing. So
Right.
it's not that they're not cops because they are.
No,
but that's
of
not.
course.
You're right. That's not the
They
function.
don't
They
handle
don't normally do traffic stops
violations
and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what happened there basically, and it was he's out on bond now, but it was just kind of a sad story because it was just crazy and weird.
It was nuts. They should have sent him for a psych eval. That's what they do in Law and Order.
To be honest, I almost didn't cover it because I was like, this is nothing. This is like an a-hole old man just being mean. It's not news. It doesn't affect anyone. It's just like this. It's just sensational and like kind of, but. It was being covered everywhere, so I was like, yeah, gotta give it some coverage.
Yep. And then my other ones we talked about on the air today for the Valley Today, the phone scam alerts that Frederick County Sheriff's Office has released. And then you talked about Ayler is getting a new school.
Getting a new school. For details on that, plug.
Yep.
Go to the Valley Today podcast. It's going to be up pretty soon. I mean, by the time you're listening to this,
it'll be up before this podcast is up.
Oh,
because that, of course, is my priority.
It's a challenge now between me and Janet, who can post faster. So check that out. We're going to be right back, and when we come back, I'm going to talk about Shentel applying for a permit to erect a cell tower in Jim Barnett Park, and I'm going to talk about Shenandoah County, which has now been asked to join the opioid crisis lawsuit that Winchester was asked to join earlier on this summer. So we'll talk about all that when we come back with some more Another Look.
It's an award-winning lunch hour every day at noon with the News at Noon and Valley Today. Listen live on air, online, or on demand at theriver953.com. That's theriver953.com.
And we're back with some more, another look. We're going to talk some more local news. We're going to make this segment pretty quick because we really want to get to dumb news first of all. Second of all, it's my stuff, and what do I know? I'm just the little news director. And third of all,
you clearly don't know how to say bollards.
Okay, so I have to clarify. I kept using the word bollander to describe the barriers. The word is actually bollard. I'd never heard that word before. I wrote this article. I actually had to look it up because I was surprised by it. I didn't, but apparently that's the term for the vertical, cylindrical, yellow barrier that they put up to block vehicles from entering certain pedestrian areas. They call it a bollard, not a bollander. I was recently using a colander, and I think that perhaps influenced
that was mine. You
my
stole
pronunciation.
That.
I did. No, I did. I haven't used a colander my damn life.
You don't even know what it is, do you?
It's
the bowl with all the little holes in it that you drain the water out of spaghetti, right?
That is such such a Janet way to sort of. It's a way of filtering the spaghetti out of the water. No, you're just like, it's the bowl with all the little holes in it.
Duh,
the tiny little holes in it.
Yeah, cell towers. Let's get to the cell towers.
You didn't say wire mesh. You just.
Oh, mine's not. Mine's plastic.
You use plastic?
Yeah, it's white plastic with orange handles.
Yeah, okay.
Of course it is.
Of course it is. That makes sense. Well, one thing I want to talk about, because this actually has been very controversial, this thing. The company Shentel, based in Edinburgh, it's been wanting to apply for a conditional use permit so that it can erect a 100-foot cell tower in a part of Jim Barnett Park. It would be erected in the Lester P. St. Hoss BMX track parking lot. And so what they had to do first before they brought it before Winchester City Council is bring it before the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. And what happened when they did that is the board voted 4-3 saying, no, we don't recommend that you do this, Winchester City Council. Well.
Because who wants a cell tower in their park? First of all.
Yes, and that's the main concern. Then Winchester City Council said, okay, well, let's hear them out then. We have a recommendation, so now the Shentel can come to us and bring it to us and make their argument for why they should be allowed just to submit the permit application, not to actually build it.
We're not approving them and saying it's okay. We just want to hear their rationale.
Exactly.
How much are they going to pay us?
And after they presented to Winchester City Council, the council voted 6-1 to allow them to present the conditional use permit. So that's what they're doing now. But the reaction was really volatile from Parks and Rec. One man in particular, the board chairman, John Bentley from the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, he was upset enough that he actually resigned the position because he said if they don't actually listen to our advice in the Winchester City Council when we give it, I'm not sure I understand the point of this entire board because we have studied the issue closely and we've decided that this is what's best. And so there's a debate to be had there.
Yeah.
Janet's already signed.
I'm annoyed because I know John Bentley personally. I am not a fan. I do not. I do not have.
Let's not
high regard for him. But it annoys me that I agree with what he said. What's the point of an advisory board for the Parks and Rec if when they advise they're not even going to listen to the advice that they are being given? So I have to agree with him.
There you go. There was a silver lining to that rain cloud. Okay.
Yeah.
So
my stomach hurts.
Why can't we be friends? Why can't we?
So what happens now?
Well, they're submitting the permit. In fact, I believe they submitted it.
Which still doesn't mean it's going to be approved.
No, but I'll tell you what. So here's Winchester City Council's perspective, and we're talking about bollards costing $250,000 and all that. Shentel, if they accepted the conditional use permit, Shentel would pay $111,000 to secure a 20-year lease on the site, and they would pay a rent of $7,000 per year, along with other various fees for different things over the course of their stay there. So it's a budget boost. The other part of it is that, and the one thing that wasn't really acknowledged too much, but I was reading that there are actually some 80-foot structures nearby that are kind of similar-ish. And so that kind of gave a little perspective. Okay, this isn't as much of an eyesore compared to everything else out there as one might think. But it's still going to be an eyesore. And it's still going to be in the park. It'll be in the parking lot, but it'll still sort of be there. I don't really know this park. I've not been here.
I'm driving through it in my head right now.
You're
literally,
I'm
driving through.
Do you know the area they're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
because it backs up. If I'm not mistaken, it backs up 281. So it's not like it's in the center of the park, and now you're going to have this giant cell tower.
It's on the edge.
It's on the end of the park, I think, on the Cincinnati Road end, where it backs up to Daniel Morgan.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think what else is there, unless it's some sort of maybe power structures or something else. But I don't, yeah.
Well, we're going to have to see, because if what might happen is a public hearing might be held on the event.
Well, and if it does, then you better watch it, because all the people that have Sprint, because that's Shentel, all the people that have Sprint cell service are going to come out in droves saying, my signal sucks in my house. I want this tower.
Yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. I meant to actually say this. There will be a public hearing. The Planning Commission will hold a public hearing. That'll be August 21st. So that's coming up in less than 2 weeks.
And then the Planning Commission will make a recommendation that City Council will or will not listen to.
So we'll see what happens there. The other big news, you might remember from back in the day, June 14th, which seems like an eternity from now, Winchester was approached by a law firm, Sanford Heisler Sharp, and were trying to start a lawsuit against Big Pharma, the pharmaceutical industry. And this was over the pharmaceutical industry's. Basically, they say that drug manufacturers lie about the effectiveness of their pain medicine as well as their addiction risks. Drug distributors fail to properly track large pharmaceutical sales. And then pharmacy managers are incentivized by opioid manufacturers to sell more. And that has created a vicious cycle that has led in large part to the opioid epidemic that has plagued local communities.
Sounds like a logical conclusion.
So they're trying to start a lawsuit, and when they approached Winchester, they had launched a $100 million lawsuit on behalf of Alexandria and a $30 million lawsuit on behalf of Dickinson County. Those were their two that were spearheading it. And at that time, back in June, they were claiming that 15 other localities were considering joining the lawsuit as well. Since then, there have been some developments.
Has Winchester said yes, or is that still hanging out there?
I think Winchester is still hanging out there, but I'll have to get back to you, and we'll have to amend it on the podcast if they're not. But for now, just assume it's hanging out there. But the law firm now represents 18 localities in Virginia.
Wow, from 2 to 18.
Yes. And so basically, and this is according to County Attorney Jason Ham, who is advising the Shenandoah County Board of Supervisors, because they've now been approached by...
I'm sorry, that was awful. All of a sudden you said Ham, and I'm picturing some guy falling through a roof in somebody's house, and that's a whole other thing. I'm sorry.
For context...
It's a long Friday.
For context, listen to the Valley Today podcast. Yeah. Basically, he's advising the Shenandoah County Board of Supervisors because they've now been approached by Sanford Heisler Sharp and Kaufman and Knowles PC, who are both spearheading the legal action. And that's the lawsuit right there. And so basically, the Shenandoah County Board of Supervisors, now they might take action on this proposal by Sanford Heisler Sharp by voting on entering into a retainer agreement with the firm. They might do that. It'll be a point of discussion likely at their August 28th meeting. It hasn't been established on their agenda, I don't believe, not that I've seen yet, but you would think.
Yeah, and it'll probably be, because if their meeting's not till the 28th of August, there's a work session in between. So it's probably something they'll discuss at a work session before they actually come up before an actual meeting and say, hey, this is what we're thinking about doing.
Winchester, when I was reading about it, Winchester, they seemed a lot more hesitant than
which is
Shenandoah.
kind of surprising given what Winchester has, the full force of what Winchester has put behind fighting this opioid epidemic.
No, I think it was a good caution.
Yeah.
I think they wanted to make sure that the accusations were accurate, the specifics behind the accusations were accurate, because the overall picture makes sense and it seems factual. And
I could be completely wrong about this, but I seem to recall from a podcast that I listened to, probably an NPR podcast, that one of the gentlemen who is behind these lawsuits was also one of the lead attorneys who was behind the lawsuit that ultimately got all of the money from the tobacco industry.
I wouldn't know about that.
But
that's
I
very
think
interesting.
that he won that case. He's like,
are you saying this specific lawsuit? One of these attorneys?
But I know this. Yeah, I'll find that NPR podcast and I'll send it to you, and then maybe we can have a sidebar, another look one day about it.
Does the name Andrew Miller sound familiar? It's a very
Although
generic
that's-
name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Andrew Miller, he was a pitcher for the Orioles until he went to the Yankees, and now he's somewhere else, and I don't know where he's at. But
What about Bob Smith Esquire? Does that sound familiar?
it doesn't. Yeah.
I'm just kidding. That's not one of them. But yeah, so we'll have more for you on that. But we're running over on this segment too. All right.
So much news.
All right.
So
So
little
much
time.
news. So much news. All right. So let's end this segment right now. When we come back, it's what you've all been waiting for. It's the real reason we do this podcast. It's beautiful. It's spectacular. It's exciting. The adrenaline is
Did
flowing.
you find
The
a
blood
new
is rushing through your
stupid news
veins.
story from what you said on
I
the
did.
air today?
I found two. I found a warm-up one, and then I found it's like a 1-2 punch I got going on. So get ready for that when we come back with some more Another Look.
It's an award-winning lunch hour every day at noon with the News at Noon and Valley Today. Listen live on air, online, or on demand at theriver953.com. That's theriver953.com.
And we're back with some more Another Look, and it's time now for the dummies. That's right. The best part of the whole podcast. Janet's chomping at the bit, but I'll leave it up to you, Janet. Do you want to go last first?
No, you go first since
You
you
want me
have
to
the
go first?
1-2 punch.
The 1-2
and then
punch.
I'll be the final knockout.
You'll be the climax. Okay, let's try it. Let's try that theory out. So, Janet, you ever been in a situation?
I swear, your lead-ins are what I look forward to more than your stupid news stories.
We've all been here, right? Where, we're tired of our wife from a foreign country asking us for money all the time. We're just done. She's just killing you. And so you think, wow, maybe she's literally killing me. And you try to fake your own death so she stops asking for money. You ever do that? A Honduran man living in the United States reportedly pretended to be dead so his wife back home would stop asking him for money. Danny Gonzalez, 27 years old, took photos of himself with cotton wool stuffed into his nostrils and a white sheet over his body, as if he were lying in a morgue. There were, however, a few clues to show that he had not actually died of cancer, as he had had someone text his wife that he had. It didn't take relatives long to realize Gonzalez appeared to actually be smiling in the photos.
Well, it's because he knew even in the afterlife he was not going to have to give her any more money.
I think having cotton up your nose and then stuffing some in your mouth kind of makes you grin a little bit, just like you can't believe this is happening. Others also noticed that he appeared to be lying in a double bed, not exactly a slab.
So he sprung for the white sheet. He
Yeah.
just couldn't get the gurney that he needed to make
No.
it look more authentic.
Actually, not even. The white sheet over his body was a pillow cover. So, yeah, it was pretty much a
Because
failed
he's taking
attempt.
off his money. He didn't have any money left to
Yeah, it's
properly
true.
stage his own death.
That's true. It's what we in the industry call a cry for help.
Exactly what industry is that?
I don't know. The mortician industry. But here's the real story.
It's called mortuary industry, by the way.
Well, whatever. I'm.
Bollender boy.
All right. So here's okay.
All right,
that was the one.
warm-up.
That was the one.
that was the wind up.
Okay. You ready for the two? The 1-2 punch. Here's the two. Amethyst Realm became a household name in Australia last year when she claimed she had slept with 15 ghosts since breaking up with her fiancé 12 years ago.
Was he alive?
Good question. Or did she kill him and then sleep with him? She claims she has gone
Or
off
fake
men.
his death.
Oh. She claims she has gone off men completely and prefers ghosts as she can communicate, feel, and have sex with them.
I'm so glad you didn't do this one on the air today. You know our listeners would have lost their shit.
But Janet, that was a year ago. That's not news. No. Now
She's getting married.
Now she has revealed her new ghost boyfriend and her are thinking about having ghost babies.
Is that like dust bunnies?
Like, she told New Idea, I guess that's an outlet out there. One day, while I was walking through the bush enjoying nature, so freaking Australian, I suddenly felt this incredible energy. I knew a new lover had arrived. It's pretty serious, in fact. We've even been thinking about having a ghost baby. She added, I know that sounds crazy.
Well, at least she acknowledges it.
But I've been looking into it. What does that mean?
Yeah, where would one go to research that?
Yeah, was she consulting like the Ghostbusters or what? I don't know how that works. And I don't think
calling Rosemary.
I wish her name was Rosemary. That would have been amazing. No, unfortunately, her name is Amethyst. And
of course it is.
Amethyst said, I've been looking into it, and I don't think it's totally out of the question. She also believes phantom pregnancies are ghost babies which are unable to go full term. So I don't know what the result is. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. Does it float out of her? Is she going to get like a baby bump or a ghost baby bump?
Is there a ghost stork that leaves it at her doorstep?
Yeah, like the Grim Reaper just sort of like knocks twice and floats away.
Like the gremlins. She just adds water in a petri dish and there it is.
Yeah, maybe the Bollard trolls leave it.
Ah.
Maybe that's it. So yeah, that's my news.
So I got to give you that is stupid.
It's dumb.
That is
you get a couple
stupid.
Dumb stories.
Well, and ironically enough, it's going to be a good lead-in.
Oh, for your...
Because I gave you the headline during the Valley Today show today of what my stupid news was going to be.
It was going to be goat love.
And I will tell you that I found this last night and saw the headline, grazed through the first paragraph or two, and thought, you know what, the headline's going to carry it anyway. It's going to be fine.
Yeah. What's the headline, Janet?
And wait a minute.
Oh,
but
right.
then, right before we went on the air today, I was, skimming it a little bit more and thought, I probably should read the entire article because that might, be a good idea.
Yeah.
And then I got down to another paragraph that I'm going to read in a minute, and I literally lost it. And you saw me coming back from Liz's office. I could hardly walk. I was
actually scared. I thought like we broke you. I thought you were just broken.
Okay, so here's the headline. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Ranch uses donkey love as de-stressing technique.
I just love that.
Yeah.
Look at us, baby.
So maybe Amethyst should look into this donkey farm.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good alternative. I mean, if ghost babies aren't
they arrive on burros
floating your boat. Yeah.
So this is happening because this story is dated August 9th at 1 p.m. Of course, it's from the New York Post because they have become such a rich resource for me.
Oh, yeah.
Ulster Park, New York.
Okay.
I'm guessing it's upstate New York.
Scene of the crime.
In most of the world, donkeys are beasts of burden. But the only job of the long-eared denizens of Donkey Park is to nuzzle, bray, and beguile the diverse group of people who find comfort in their company.
Every single time we get a New York Post article, it's like Edith Wharton wrote it. I swear, these guys are poets. Yeah, keep going. This is beautiful.
Donkey Park is the creation of Steve Steyert, who sought a new direction after his job as a software engineer for IBM was eliminated 6 years ago.
So where does he go next?
Yes, he first heard about donkeys from his daughter in veterinary school and fell in love with them.
Wait, what does that mean? He first heard of donkeys. He discovered donkeys. What does that even mean? I'd never heard of donkeys before. Then my daughter became a vet.
He'd never seen Shrek.
Oh, man. Then I was introduced to Shrek and all these donkey resources.
Now he's devoting his life to providing an opportunity for people to interact with donkeys and experience their calming presence.
Okay, so this is officially disgusting. Is this bestiality? I thought this was donkey on donkey stuff and the people watched. I don't know.
Here's the paragraph that nearly took me down.
Oh, God.
Steyert has 11 donkeys, a mule, and a donkey-zebra hybrid, or as Trevor Noah would say, a donkey-zebra hybrid, that live in a neat 1.5-acre mini ranch at his home in Ulster Park, 80 miles north of New York City. He takes them to schools, nursing homes, and events for children with disabilities. He also... wait a minute. Here, this is going to get you. He also teaches donkey husbandry and has an 800-member meetup group that features hikes with donkeys.
Okay.
They're great stress sponges.
I'm so confused. It says, is this sexual at all? Because I'm so confused. What was the title again? The headline?
Ranch uses donkey love as de-stressing technique.
They made it sound super. Was that intentional? Because we're usually talking about criminals too. Like,
yeah, apparently there's a donkey sanctuary based in England.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently, unlike how donkeys are portrayed in popular culture as gloomy or ill-tempered, they're actually mild-mannered, intelligent, and affectionate, donkey advocates say.
I just don't.
There are just so many donkey advocates. I don't want to know that there are donkey
It's just so
advocates
weird.
out there.
Like, I honestly thought that this was like some perverted story or something.
I think it probably is in some way. I think that's going to be on a future episode where, hey, Janet, remember that story you did a couple of years ago about the donkey love? Well, as it turns out,
donkey scandal revealed. I can see it. I don't trust this guy. You kidding me? Donkey love?
Oh, yeah. Well, and it's one of the, if I'm in a bad mood and I come out here, they help me relax.
God, it sounds so sketchy.
Yeah. And then Steyert says, all of our services are free. We don't hire donkeys out.
Is my mind in the gutter? Am I crazy? Janet, am I crazy?
That's where
am I crazy? Also, is this what our podcast has become? Is this really... I'm so confused on so many levels. I don't know how to feel about all this.
All right, so do you want to hear the last?
Yeah.
Patti Lundgren says she looked for meetup groups when she moved to the area and was intrigued by the donkey hikes. Now she regularly...
Patti Lundgren is intrigued by the donkey hikes. Oh, my God.
Okay, now stop. Now she regularly drives 45 minutes to volunteer at Donkey Park. There's such a gentle energy about them, Lundgren says. I always leave here feeling good. The dirtier I am, the better I feel.
Oh, my God.
And that, my friends, is the sound of victory.
Oh. All right, my mind is officially not.
I know, my mascara's running.
Was this the intention of the article from the start? Was the New York
the New
Post
York
screwing
Post.
with us?
It's the New York
So they were
Post.
using
So
like
they
innuendo
probably
to try and make us think.
Oh,
man.
It worked. It worked.
They were like, I bet we can get some quote from this dumb Patti Lundgren. Oh, man. I bet this girl could give us some quote that we can make sound so bad. Oh, man.
Yeah, so I win.
we need to class this show up. We got to start like, oh, man. Can we start talking about like elevated literature?
Yeah,
Although
no.
I got to say, that was elevated literature at some point. Donkeys Beguiled.
Yes, it was.
That was like really some upper level. God, good for the New York Post. All right.
Look, I have tears on
On your
my
thing.
paper.
Patti Lundgren was intrigued by the donkey hikes. God. Sometimes it all comes together.
That's
all right.
going to be the title of the podcast.
Patti
and the
Lundgren.
donkeys.
Patti Lundgren. It's like Patty Hearst. She's abducted by the donkeys. Starts to see things their way.
Oh my gosh.
All right. And with that, I think we're done.
I think we are so far done.
We're way over this podcast. So before we even do another second, that's all you're getting this week from Another Look.